Well, looky here. We're live. Hey, this is the Energy Question with David Blackmon. I'm your host, David Blackmon. With me today, we're talking politics with Larry Schweikart and Stu Turley. How y'all doing today, guys?
Great here.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, as I like to say.
Well, we're doing this every week. Just as a reminder, everybody, this is our weekly deal. We're doing through at least the election, and we'll see. We'll reevaluate after that. Larry is America's history teacher. He's a brilliant political analyst who I first got in touch with right before the 2016 elections, Larry. I believe that was the first time we connected, and we were both early adopters of the theory that Trump was going to win that election. And I think obviously we were right on that. I thought he would win in 2020 as well, and I still think he probably did, but that's another subject for a different episode. Today, we're going to talk about the state of the race and some other issues that I think are really important that should be on everyone's radar. Larry, start with a summary of voter registration and absentee, how the requests for mail-in ballots are going.
Well, first of all, Arizona, Maricopa County continues to just march ahead. It's 165,000 net over Democrats now. So there's just no way Arizona is going to go blue. And in the latest polling here, Carrie Lake has pulled within 5 points of El Pollo Gallego. So that's a good sign. If she can get it within 4, I think Trump can pull her over. In terms of voter requests, right now about 400,000 people have voted already. And 64% of those are Democrats, 19% are Republican. Now, before people freak out over those numbers, you need to understand that while indeed Florida and North Carolina and Pennsylvania are in that group of what we hope are more Republican heavy voters, the other side has Colorado, Vermont, Connecticut, Minnesota, a lot of very heavily Democrat areas that are going to skew those numbers. So I'm guessing that the real numbers are somewhere in the neighborhood of where it counts. The numbers are probably in the neighborhood of 55 to about 30 to 35, something like that, which would be up for Republicans.
Yeah.
The early voting in Virginia has slowed way down, but Republicans are still gaining slightly with every single new drop or every single new measurement. And it's way below what Democrats have done in the past and way above what Republicans have done in the past. So I continue to hold out hope that Virginia might in fact be in play given the nature of all these early ballots.
Has the voting slowed down because of the hurricane, you think? Or
no, it was just... I think that early voters, especially older voters as a whole, want to rush that ballot in and turn it around as soon as they get it. And this is kind of natural. You want to make sure you don't misplace your ballot or forget about it or whatnot. So I think you're going to see the flow of new ballots continue to slow, but it looks like the Republicans keep picking up a couple of points every time there's new numbers reported in Virginia. The big question now is North Carolina, because the hurricane, I'm still not clear how a hurricane on the coast ended up destroying so much of the interior western part of North Carolina.
It was pretty targeted, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, did it break dams or what? I'm still not sure what caused all the flooding. But at any rate, Seth Keshel, if you go to his Substack, Captain K's Corner, has done a detailed analysis of what this means. The majority of the counties hit are very red counties. The blue area is Asheville. Asheville offsets about 3 of the voter registrations in some of the red counties, but you still have a lot of red counties out there, a couple of other small blue cities. So the upshot, as he puts it, is probably going to be in the neighborhood of 50,000 votes one way or the other, if these people can get back on their feet and vote by election day, which if you've seen the devastation there, it's questionable. Republicans need to go down there with a shovel in one hand and a ballot in the other, and help out as much as they can to get these people back on their feet, because the damage was just more than I've seen in most typical hurricanes because of the flooding.
Yeah.
But I do not
there was
believe
a lot of destruction in rural Georgia as well.
Yes.
It skirted by Atlanta, but hit rural areas in Georgia too, and that's problematic for the election as well.
Yeah, I still think Trump is safe in North Carolina. I've always thought he's had a 3 to 4 point lead. At most, this will take off maybe half a point. And remember,
so you don't think Robinson's going to drag him down? Robinson was a horrible, horrible nominee for governor over there.
Well, I don't think he will. I mean, people very seldom remember the president's at the top of the ticket.
Yeah.
So you vote for president first, then you go to governor. I don't think anybody's going to go, man, I really hate the governor, so I'm not voting for Trump. I don't see that. But by the way, he may be a horrible candidate, but gee, he managed to get in as lieutenant governor and nobody said a word.
Right.
So people, if they're going to complain about these candidates, they need to start vetting them a long time before they get into lieutenant governor positions where they're going to be the next nominee. So we'll see what happens with North Carolina. A long way out, over 40 days to the election. A lot can happen with those counties coming in. I guess the biggest news, and I'm not an advocate of polls, but I think the biggest news in the last couple of days has been we've had 4 or 5 poll drops that have been almost all in President Trump's favor.
Yeah.
2 in Pennsylvania with him up, 2 Atlas and Trafalgar. Trafalgar up with him up in every single swing state except Nevada and North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. Yeah.
And
that actually was Atlas has released all theirs. Trafalgar's going to release them over the week.
A little bit at a time.
Stages,
you're right. That was Atlas. And then Trafalgar came along. There have been a couple of other polls, but I mean, some of the biggest news is the fact that this idiot Democrat, which I'm glad she said what she said, but she's a stupid fool for saying it. She said that Cackles is underwater in Michigan. And, it was dragging down her Senate campaign. This is Slotkin. So I thank you for your candid comments there, Alyssa. But you can be sure that the Cackles campaign wasn't happy to hear that. So if true, that means that she's losing both Pennsylvania and Michigan at this point, along with Arizona, Georgia, I think North Carolina, and Wisconsin is the only wild card, and Atlas had Trump up in Wisconsin, I think, by 1. So the combination of the voter registrations, the Republican strength in early ballot requests and early ballot returns is extremely encouraging. Just have to watch that overall number. But again, it's so skewed by places like Colorado, Minnesota, Vermont. Vermont, I think there's 1 Republican in all of Vermont. And
that's probably Bernie now.
Probably Bernie's dog, yeah.
And Connecticut, which it used to be a Republican state.
Yeah.
But it's received so many Boston fleers that it's turned quite blue. So that's pretty much the state of where we are today. I think if the election were today, Trump would have 312 electoral votes.
Yeah, North Carolina's a big wild card right now, in Nevada. The polling still continues to be pretty disappointing out of Nevada, which I wasn't really expecting. But and it seems counterintuitive, especially when you see, various polls. New York Times Siena is one. The Atlas poll showing very strong support among Hispanic voters for Trump, 40% and higher, which is way above. And
here's how I think they're doing it. It looks like they finally got wise on Arizona and voter registrations in Arizona. It's like they finally woke up to that. And so one of the polls had Trump up by 6 in Arizona, which is about right. I think between 4 and 6.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're doing this one state at a time. and that the voter registrations in Nevada, which have Democrats down to a mere 19,000 lead, remember they were 88,000 in 2020, and Trump only lost by 33,000.
Yeah.
So right now they should be in plus Trump territory. And I think that it's just taking the pollsters, the good ones, a little bit of time to state by state go through and make all their adjustments for the registration changes that have absolutely occurred.
Yeah. Can we talk about the good polls for a second? I talk about this a lot in my Substack. There are pollsters you should follow and pollsters you should absolutely ignore. And that's not based on pollsters who are Trump friendly and pollsters who are Harris friendly. It's based on the records established by these polling groups the last two presidential election cycles. And Atlas, Trafalgar, Rich Barris's poll, Rasmussen have been the four most accurate pollsters of the last two presidential election cycles. And those are the ones you need to pay attention to. These other polls, like Quinnipiac, has been the least accurate pollster. Morning Consult, anything with Ipsos's name by it. These are polls designed to create news stories. They're not designed to actually gauge voter attitudes. And I just wonder if you agree with that. That's my proposition on it.
I would add to the good pollsters insider advantage.
Yes.
And the New York Times has been pretty good this cycle. They seem to be right about where I have things, at least. So I would.
Yeah, they're using a different pollster this time than they've used in the past, so that may explain it. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I think it's important just to. I don't know. I mean,
I think things have changed a bunch, and when I'm on X and I see things, I see polls go whizzing by, and I always jump on the liberals as much as I possibly can when they say that Kamala's winning in the polls, and I vote. And it turns out all those are even turning out more towards Trump. And so even the poor libtards are actually getting the horrible results. I'm guessing it's 70% for Trump if you want to average everything else. My opinion on X, I could be wrong.
Well, I certainly think if we had balanced news coverage, it would be 70% Trump at minimum. I don't think Democrats could ever win an election without controlling most of the media.
Well, their whole thing is fraud. I mean, from top to bottom,
Yeah.
the whole campaign structure is fraud. They won't answer questions. Waltz has indicated he's not going to answer any questions in the debate.
Speaking of that, did you hear the rumor that he's got his wardrobe picked out for tonight?
Oh my God, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
For our podcast listeners, there's a rumor he's got Kamala's earrings that are voice activated, so he can listen to people. Just kidding.
He's so gay. Just so gay.
Tucker Carlson calls him the creeper. I don't know if he's gay or not, but he sure is creepy.
He makes horses nervous. When he walks into the horse barn, they don't like it.
Well, let's talk about the debate.
I'm sure he's got an invitation from the George Lincoln Rockwell Project Elementary School chapter to be a member any moment.
Wow.
Holy moly. I'm not going there, folks.
Larry, I got a real question for you. Who vetted this idiot? And I think it was intentional. I swear it was intentional, because this guy should not have passed any sniff test.
What happened was that, according to what I've read, the scuttlebutt is that no one wanted that job. That Harris actually interviewed Shapiro actually interviewed Harris and said, "No way am I getting involved with this." And the same thing happened with, I heard, dozens of other candidates that they approached. They saw her as a train wreck, the Titanic. They wanted to preserve themselves for 2028. So I honestly think he was the last man, if you want to call him that, standing.
Last boy, yeah, last something.
The last creeper standing.
So what I was getting at, though, about the fraud is there's this guy, Segula or something like that, who does this analysis of the cell phones. at
Oh,
these
yeah.
Harris events.
Tony, isn't he great? I follow him on X. He is
It's
phenomenal.
astounding. Out of 5,000 people, 3,000 of the cell phones are from California, and 500 of them will be people who work at the venue, and then a bunch of them are from like Indiana, and almost none of them are from the actual venue that she is speaking to. They're all bussed in. This is like those AstroTurf companies you see roll up with their trucks and roll the AstroTurf out. That's exactly what they're doing.
And Larry, this one that she just had, I believe it was in Nevada or
in Vegas.
Vegas. She had cartel members. He had that thing geofenced down, and in there were 30 cartel members. Tony, I love Tony, and we need to lift Tony for up in for prayers for his wife with cancer. We need that man running on all cylinders. He is a national treasure.
Well, the cartel needs to watch their investment.
Exactly. They were sitting there going, hey, you misspeak, you end up with cement shoes.
Right.
So the debate tomorrow night, I view it as an almost certain train wreck for this guy, for Waltz. I don't see any way he can even begin to compete in a debate with J.D. Vance. I mean, I wonder what you guys think.
I'll give my 2 cents, and then I'll let Larry give a real opinion. I think there's going to be a nationwide power outage, that they're going to cut the grid so that we cannot see how bad this guy is.
Oh, that could happen.
I'm just going to caution you guys that liberals in these debates have done, with the exception of Rutabaga's meltdown, have done pretty well because A, they have the answers in their ear. B, they have notes. C, they have very favorable moderators.
Yeah.
So don't overlook or underestimate the impact of moderators who can frame a question so that even a dimwad spooge pickle like Waltz.
Spooge pickle. Yeah. Holy smokes, I got me a new word, a spooge pickle.
Synonym is dick nipple. So
I'm glad this
There's a reason why his nickname among his football players he supposedly coached was Sandusky, folks. I mean, that's
well,
wow.
I wouldn't let him within 200 yards of an elementary school, but that's just me. Anyway, I would not just assume that it's going to be another Biden type blowout because they learned and remember the Biden thing was in part structured to get him out. They allowed that to happen to him. So they're not going to allow him to be ground into dust by J.D. Vance. They'll interrupt Vance. They will fact check him, even though they say they're not going to do that. They're going to do everything they can to throw roadblocks up to keep him from landing the knockout blow. I think it'll end up more than a tie, but not the knockout you think.
Hats off to Vance. Every interview I have seen him in, I like him even more. And he's
the most effective VP nominee.
I am so impressed. I've reached out and tried to get him on the podcast, and I haven't heard back yet, which is normal. I have to pretend I'm Larry.
Well, you saw all the cackling by all of the people who were the supporters of Haley, the knick-knack paddywhackers, those people, and all the supporters of DeSantis and some of the others, Rubio. Oh, you should have picked Rubio. He'd be so much better, the sweaty little man.
David, with your permission, I'd like to play my new favorite song, if that's okay.
Oh, please.
Okay? Let me play this one. This is my new favorite song, Larry. I don't know if you have heard this one yet.
It's Stu's American Top 10.
They know I'm beating Kamala. This race won't even be tied. Her policies are nuts, so she's out her goddamn mind. She just repeats the same thing, regurgitating her lines. She thinks that immigration without paperwork is good. Clearly not too much power underneath Kamala's hood. Borders are what you are.
I'll never hear this song again without just going cackling.
Massive inflation imminent if she weasels herself in. If that don't sound like fun to you, then you better help me win. I promise I'll secure you, you'll be in better hands. It'd be a flippin' free-for-all with what Kamala plans. Borders are, it's what you are. Borders are,
I love the
borders
music.
are.
Okay.
Wrap it up, Kamala.
Oh, goodness. That's fantastic.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was I needed that. I feel better. I got sweaty palms. And then David, I'm going to hijack one more here. This is real quick. This is what our election season has come to. I've never believed if our election season was The Office, this was phenomenal. AI is absolutely a hoot. Look at this guy. I don't know who did the Door Brothers.
That's
Want to give them a
fantastic,
shout.
man.
The Door Brothers. Wasn't that great?
Man.
Stu, do you have the song Fighter?
Fighter. Yes, I think I do.
That one's really good too. That's superb. That's well done.
So, back to the border. Kamala actually visited the border. She visited this town in Arizona Friday, spent about half an hour there, made a little speech, and got back on the plane, flew away. On the same day that was the day after, all these incredible statistics of criminal crossings into our country over the past 3 years came out. They're government statistics. They're not Republican statistics. 500,000 convicted criminals, including more than 13,000 committed murderers, over 16,000 convicted of sexual assaults. And then she, the next day, goes to the border. Was that a big campaign blunder, Larry? Or did anybody even see it because of the
No,
media
nobody
wouldn't
saw
report
it.
Yeah.
Nobody saw it. Nobody cares what she does. There's a few liberals on Twitter who post her things, but basically the media is doing a blackout of her because they know she's too stupid that if they expose her to the American public in any way, it will only hurt her campaign.
Yeah.
As for those numbers, they are government numbers, but I'm wondering who leaked them and why. Why did they come out all
It was
of
a Freedom
sudden?
of Information request demanded by a member of Congress.
Yeah, but we know that those can be delayed almost indefinitely.
Yeah.
So the question is why. I'm also very interested in and concerned about, in a way, these arrests, the ongoing arrests by U.S. Marshals under Operation North Star. People,
Right.
have you heard of this? Operation North Star just announced they've arrested another 3,500 people, not illegals. They didn't say they were illegals. So they said they were felons, including hundreds of murderers, people on gun charges of fraud, a variety of other things. This is the second one that I've read about. I saw one a few months ago with another 3,500. David, you say that you found that so far over 10,000 have been arrested by the U.S. Marshals. What is going on here?
Yeah, they did a press release Friday, Department of Justice, the first one I've seen on this, in which they claim they've now made 10,200 of these arrests just over the last year. It's a project that was begun in late 2022. And Merrick Garland himself says, we first launched Operation North Star in 2022 to identify and apprehend the most dangerous fugitives and violent offenders. From May to September of this year, the Marshal Service worked with state and local law enforcement partners in 10 metro areas to arrest more than 3,400 fugitives and violent offenders and seized large quantities of firearms and fentanyl. So apparently this is the DOJ's initiative to, I guess, at least look like they're doing something about all, 100,000 Americans a year getting poisoned by fentanyl. They haven't really done much prior to this, obviously, and haven't really seemed to care much about it. Biden probably doesn't even know it exists. So I guess, I don't know. I guess it's a commendable effort. Good for the Marshal Service for doing something that no one else at DOJ appears to want to do. So that's good.
What if this was a scenario? What if a group of the Marshals went into Grand Moff Garland's office, because that's who he reminds me of, as Star Wars Grand Moff Tarkin, you know, the toady who does whatever he's told by Darth Vader.
Right.
Anyway, Grand Moff Garland, and they go into his office and they say, look, you guys are going to lose the election, and the Republicans are out for blood. They're probably going to deconstruct or vastly change the FBI. We want to remain intact. So how about if you let us do some good PR and switch us over from hunting white nationalists to just hunting plain old criminals?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that meeting took place, and if Garland, seeing the handwriting on the wall, didn't say, okay, you guys proceed, and then we'll put out a press release every time you arrest several thousand of these bad guys.
That might have happened. Wouldn't surprise me. We've seen no other operations in good faith by this Department of Justice, so nice to think there might be one of them happening. You know, so a minute ago, Stu talked about trying to get JD Vance on his podcast. Here's someone I want to get on my podcast. I want everybody. I came across this young lady this morning on X. She's apparently a TikTok influencer. And I just got an email telling me her name is Joy Black, and she has a TikTok account. Her address is Joy Black, LASCRUZ backup. And I'm going to try to get her for an interview, because she has a video she did, 4.5-minute video going through all the mysterious connections with the intelligence community for both Trump assassins. The first one and the second one, both obviously connected into the intel community. I watch a guy named Mike Benz, who's a post on X. He's one of my favorite guys.
Right.
He has a 2.5-hour video going through all this stuff. She did it in 4 minutes and 23 seconds.
That's my style.
Yeah. I mean, I spent 2.5 hours over the weekend listening to Mike Benz's deal. And then this girl does it in 4.5 minutes. It's crazy. Crazy good.
Here's a minute off of your
Substack.
Yeah,
let's play a minute of it.
And what's your Substack again, David?
Oh yeah, at Blackmon.substack you can find this.
Okay.
One thing alone. So we see some similarities between the shooters. Both were donors to Act Blue, a PAC for the Democrat Party. Both managed to get within 500 yards of Trump. Both attempts were followed by the mainstream media kind of oddly downplaying the severity of the situations. And most importantly, Crooks was in a 2023 BlackRock commercial, and Routh was in a 2022 commercial for the Ukrainian militia that had been trained by the American CIA for the past decade and is funded by BlackRock. Here's the explanation. So for context, Ryan Routh was a construction worker in North Carolina that moved to Hawaii, has a house and a business there that wasn't making any money, so he was listed as unemployed. But he really cared about standing for Ukraine. So this former construction worker with no income, operating entirely alone, ran a website offering Americans $1,200 a month to fight for Ukraine, was illegally moving Afghani soldiers fleeing from the Taliban in Pakistan and Iran to fight for Ukraine, dropped everything for months at a time to fly himself to Ukraine, and flew to DC to lobby for Congress to recruit soldiers for Ukraine. He also has about 100 criminal filings, including a 2000.
Folks, this is for the best 4.5 minutes you're going to spend today going through all this stuff, because this guy's background and the other guy's background too are no different than Lee Harvey Oswald's background. Okay. And it's just a matter of historic record. Lee Harvey Oswald was an operative for both the CIA and the FBI in the late 50s, early 60s. That's why he went to Russia and back. Government paid his travel expenses both ways, you know, so, but we didn't find out about Oswald for 30 years. After the Kennedy assassination, all those
Dave, not so fast. I would say you need to add on to that. He was also an operative of the KGB and the Cuban intel.
Oh, sure.
I think Oswald was getting 4 different paychecks.
Yeah. And but you know, we didn't, until they established that commission to release the documents related to the Kennedy assassination in the early 90s. We didn't know about any of that for 30 years. Here we are. 60 days after the first assassination attempt, and we know all this stuff about these two guys.
And
just 2 weeks after the second.
and hats off to Elon. Otherwise, we
That's
wouldn't.
right. You wouldn't
Right.
know any of it without Elon and TikTok. So again, 4.5 minutes, best time you'll invest today. I just wanted to put that out there since I have this platform. What's next, Stu? Give us the Commerce Secretary. The elevated language attacking Trump still goes on despite these
how
two
did we get here?
assassination
Let's
attempts.
lie. How did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a
extinguish him for good.
remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done.
Who would that be?
This is the Commerce
Unbelievable.
Secretary of the United States.
No, I mean, who's this talented candidate? I haven't seen a Democrat talented candidate.
Oh, I mean,
No,
Robert F. Kennedy was in the race for a while.
And then you have the converse, the other person, Trump, and this is his person
point
speaking
on
yesterday.
the plane there to say we need to address this at the top of our speech, and he did that. And today he said, let's adjust the schedule. I want to go to Georgia. I want to see my people. I want to see what's happening down there and how we can help. So he'll receive a briefing today in Georgia. We're leaving in just a few hours from here in New York. And I'd add, he's going down there to tour the devastation before Kamala Harris, before Joe Biden. And yesterday, Joe Biden was asked what more can be.
Harris hadn't even said a word about this. Trump's already headed down there. You know how the New York Times responded to that, by the way? This morning, they have an article headlined, Trump injects politics into Hurricane Helene situation.
Well, they stole that from Politico, which had that exact headline.
I'm sorry, it was Politico. You're right.
Okay.
You're right. It was
Yeah.
Politico.
And
That's
then
right.
they backed off of it. They had to try to run an article that made it look like, well, we really didn't mean to say that, which these people are so hideous. I mean, really, they do belong in jail. Many of them, I know they say, well,
Yes.
Trump's going to jail all these people. Well, it's probably a
I'm
good
with
idea.
that. Yeah,
If the cell
absolutely.
fits.
Yeah, I mean, it's so folks, I say this a lot, but it's really true. No matter how much you think you hate the mainstream media, it's not nearly as intense as you should hate them. Okay. Because these people are not just anti-journalism, they are anti-Americans. What they do is an abrogation of the duty of the Fourth Estate that the founders of this country knew was vitally important for the maintenance of our freedoms, the free flow of information, a free press. That's why it's in the First Amendment to the Constitution, the right to a free press. And these people have completely, in the modern media, have completely abrogated that responsibility in favor of promoting a political agenda of one of the political parties. And I think we're all fully aware of that. But it's really detestable what they've done to the practice of journalism. And I guess I bored everybody to silence there. So
No.
What, Stu? You got anything?
That was my next one coming up here that was just calling Mr. RT. He was calling.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was you with the phone ringing. Okay.
Yep,
So
sorry.
where are we going from here, guys? We got 37 days left to the election. My theory is if Trump just keeps running his campaign, doesn't do another debate, should never, ever, there's nothing in it for him to do another debate. That he's
If
going
we
to win
keep him
this
alive
election.
is my biggest concern.
That's right. That's the
and seeing that there are 5 death dealing squads now armed with surface to air missiles in the United States, and knowing that 3 of those are probably our 3 letter agencies trying to kill him is the biggest concern that I have.
Larry, what do you think? I mean,
That's a concern. This is just me spiritually. I have no concern about his life whatsoever. I personally believe God protected him, put him in the place he's going to be. And I don't care if they would launch a nuke at the city. It would fail to detonate or whatever. It's just, he's going to be there. And you're right about not doing another debate. If he just keeps on keeping on, I think he will probably add at least one more point in every one of these states, winning Pennsylvania by 2-3, winning Michigan by 2, winning Wisconsin by 2, winning North Carolina by 5 or 6, winning Arizona by 6, winning Nevada by 2-3, winning Florida by 10, winning Ohio by 10. So the real question is, what are the battleground states? Because Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin really are no longer battleground states. They are Trump states that may tend to occasionally dip into blue territory, but not very often. And I would argue that right now, Virginia and Minnesota and Maine and New Mexico are probably your next 4 battleground states. I saw a poll with Trump down just 6 in New Mexico. Trump underpolls every single time by over 2.1 points. So that poll means he's really within 4, and you got margin of error, which really means it could be tied. And it could be worse, but it could be tied. You look at Minnesota, he was down 3 in Minnesota. Again, between the underpolling of Trump and margin of error, he could be tied right now in Minnesota. So in all of these states, I think that you're going to be a little surprised by how close they are either way. Not that Trump's going to run away with any of these states, but I could see him taking New Mexico by 10,000 or taking Virginia by 20,000 votes and losing by an equal number at least. But that's how close they are. And he just continues. I want to say a word, though, about Susie Wiles. I know Robert Barnes and others were very critical of her, and Emerald Robinson, the perennial doomer on Twitter,
God,
who never
what is
has
going on with her?
just
Man.
a harpy, horrible. Anyway, they've all gone on and on about Susie Wiles. I'll tell you what, Susie Wiles, with the exception of her opposition to J.D. Vance's Veep, Susie Wiles has led a stellar campaign. She's had Trump in the lead almost the entire time, had him leading all the battlegrounds. Everybody admits Trump this time around is the most disciplined version of Trump they've ever seen. Always on message, very few mean tweets, very few side battles.
Still has a few every now and then.
Economy, immigration, Ukraine war, economy, immigration, Ukraine war, every place he goes. And that's all Susie Wiles and her influence. So I don't know how you can criticize somebody who has your guy in the lead, probably around a 312 electoral vote margin right now, and say, oh, she's not doing a very good job. And
he's polling better than he ever has in 10 years.
Ever. And hats off to Scott Pressler up there in Pennsylvania, who's just an astounding voter registration guy. This guy alone is worth 200 registrations per day.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. And I think also the performance of the RNC under Whatley and Laura Trump has been dramatically improved. And I'm hoping the army of lawyers they've got on contract now are going to be able to police the vote count.
Well, they've done really well so far. They've done well in the court case in Arizona, the one in Pennsylvania, the one in Youngkin. Whether it was with or without, the RNC lawyers did a good job of locking down fraudulent votes in Virginia. They locked down the fraudulent votes in Georgia. Of course, DeSantis has already eliminated fraud in Florida. Nevada purged about 100,000 dead Democrat voters. Oklahoma purged 450,000 dead Democrats. I mean, that's the size of Norman. It's 3 times the size of Norman that they purged. Ohio purged 100,000. That's all because the RNC is pushing these people. And then in Pennsylvania, you have an operation called Pennsylvania Chase.
And
that
then
is chasing
the Harris-Biden administration is filing appeals.
Sure.
Yeah, well, they sued Alabama, last week.
Good luck with that. I want to see him try to win Alabama. But you've got Pennsylvania Chase in Pennsylvania. You've got the 10X program in Michigan. These were unheard of in 2020 or even 2016. And it shows that the Republicans are on the field when it comes to ballot harvesting, ballot chasing, early ballot, voting. So they're doing a great job.
Yeah, they are. And, it's just a lot of hard work. Running a campaign is a really complex and difficult thing. I think the other thing that Trump is benefiting from is just, no, it's not the other. You already mentioned it. His discipline, his self-discipline, and his just running the campaign. And the other thing they've done in their campaign is making all these impromptu stops where they just pull over. He goes into a store, and it truly is impromptu. Whereas when Harris does it, like they did it a couple of weeks ago, they literally go in and order everybody in a restaurant to leave. Then they bring in a bunch of actors to pretend to be eating in the restaurant. And then she finally comes in. It's all fake. It's all phony.
And
it's
then
all
when,
staged, just like
and
the
then
entire
when,
campaign.
and then when Vance shows up to the same restaurant,
They
they
won't
won't let him in. Oops.
That's the perfect response to that too.
It was a big mistake on that restaurant's part. They're
Yeah.
going to lose very significant business over that. Very stupid.
Yeah, they trying to recover from it. They put out a message on Twitter, claiming that they didn't prevent Vance from coming in. He was welcomed in, and they momentarily their hostess got confused. But you could see in the video, I mean, it wasn't just the hostess doing that. It was the owner of the restaurant or the guy who has the franchise that was back in the kitchen, telling people, everybody to get out, all the Trump supporters to get out of the restaurant. It wasn't just the hostess. And I think they're going to lose a lot of business, and not just in that one franchise. It's going to impact the entire chain. And, I don't have anything against them. I'm not even aware of what that restaurant serves or what they're about. But when you do something like that, it's stupid. And it doesn't matter which party you're doing it to. It doesn't matter. You're going to lose business. You're pissing off half your potential customers.
So David, just like in energy, you and I have always said physics and fiscal responsibility matter. Are you saying ethics matter?
Well, they used to in America. I assume they still do in some parts of our society. They used to matter a lot more than they do overall, but that's just the process of becoming a banana republic, like we're well down the road to doing if we don't turn this thing around pretty quick.
Larry, how do people find your books? Those are phenomenal books, by the way.
You can go to, of course, Amazon. The Patriots History of the Modern World over there is out of print. You can still get copies on Amazon, but basically it's out of print. And the rest of them you can all get on my website, wildworldofhistory.com, wildworldofhistory.com. I also have a full curriculum for homeschoolers, high schoolers.
Wow.
On the U.S. and world history curriculum. I teach every lesson, every chapter of Patriots History in video. So even if you have another curriculum, like say you're doing classical conversations, you might want to get a hold of me at larry@wildworldhistory.com, and I'll see if I can give you a special access to the videos only for a reduced price.
Nice. I like that because I've been trying to work on a homeschool. We have got to help our homeschoolers because it's going to be the only way we save. It's going to be one of the main things to save the country.
Yep.
Well, Stu, how can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on the Energy Newsbeat .substack.com or energynewsbeat.co and or X, Stuart Turley 16. So, and I'm a bonehead with lots of fun.
It's never ending fun on X, isn't it? Y'all can find me at Substack, Blackmon.substack and davidblackmon.substack, where I write about politics. And everything I do is linked at one of those two Substack accounts. And with that, guys, I think we have covered our agenda for today. Anything else for the good of the order?
It was great.
Thank you, Larry. It's always a pleasure.
Stu,
all right, everybody. We'll see you.
I just followed Stu on Twitter. I just caught up.
That's right. Larry's on Twitter too, folks.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.